Chapter 15. As I strode into the dimly lit chamber, the monocrystal pulsed in my grasp like a heart ripped from some fabled beast of lore. Its glow cast dancing shadows across Jade's sharp features, illuminated with the glint of anticipation. I laid the prize on the newly built resonance tuning pedestal. "Damn, that's one sexy hunk of rock," I said, unable to suppress a grin at our small victory. Bookworm's words still haunted me, which is why, despite everything, I only brought back one of the monocrystals. The other was safely squirreled away for a rainy day. Jade leaned over, her blue lens goggles reflecting the crystal's light as she peered at it closely. "It's more than just pretty, Ice Wolf. It's the key to our success." Helen, arms crossed, nodded with an imperious tilt of her chin. "It represents hope for everyone on this planet. With the beacon powered by this, we'll call in the other Star Knights and put an end to Bookworm." Their excitement was a wildfire, and it kindled my own. But there was no time for back-patting. The real work was just beginning. For the next week, I became a recluse, a shadow flitting around that crystal. I channeled my magic powers into it, syncing its pulsing rhythm with the cosmic dance of the jump network. My fingers flew over holographic interfaces, tweaking codes and calibrating frequencies with a surgeon's precision driven by instinct, pulling from my embedded knowledge and feelings deep inside. "Come on, you stubborn piece of star stuff," I muttered under my breath during one particularly grueling session. "Sync up or I swear all." "Threatening inanimate objects now? That's new," Jade quipped, passing me a plate of cookies without taking her eyes off her own console. "Who says it's inanimate?" I countered, tearing into the sweets with my teeth. "This thing's got more personality than half the politicians have met." "Low bar," Helen observed dryly from where she sat reviewing data on a nearby screen. "True," I conceded with a chuckle. "But this bad boy and I are going to become best friends whether we like it or not." And we did. Hour by hour, calculation by calculation, the monocrystal began to harmonize with the vast network. With each tiny adjustment, I felt the power coursing through me, a symphony of potential waiting to erupt. The crystal wasn't just a tool, it was a testament to what raw determination could achieve. "Almost there," I breathed, the words more mantra than statement. The final alignment clicked into place, and the monocrystal shone like a newborn star with a steady beat almost like a heart. I slumped back, every muscle screaming in protest after days of relentless focus. For just a second I felt the whole web of jump beacons stretching out like a tapestry, then the moment of clarity snapped back to me and it was just an echo. "Done," I announced, my voice hoarse but triumphant. "Let Bookworm come, we're ready for him." The air was electric with possibility, charged with the promise of the battle to come. We gathered around the crystal once again, three hearts bound by a quest that was crazier than a meteor storm, and just as brilliant. Later Jade calls me to her workroom. "Check this out, Ice," Jade called, her voice a mix of excitement and the glee of a tinker about to show off a creation. I sauntered over, still buzzing from the week-long dance with the monocrystal. Her hands flew across the holographic interface, the air alive with the hum of technology and the scent of ozone as the final pieces of our beacon came together. "This bad boy is gonna be the bee's knees of battle beacons," pointing at her creation. "Battle beacon?" I say, lifting an eyebrow at her. The beacon looked more like some sort of small space fighter, almost the size of a blade, only squarish instead of man-shaped, an angular rectangle with a pair of turrets on the top and bottom and a decent-sized crystal drive on the back. This was much cooler looking than the normal caution yellow-colored ball that most beacons were. It had only taken a week for the stone blood-fabbing machines to build this battle beacon, but I shuddered at what it must have cost in materials and specialized parts to make, and that wasn't even counting the price of the monocrystal housed in the center. If I had to guess, I would put the price at around a giga credit, you know, my salary for a year of star knighting. Top-of-the-line shields, plasma repeaters, and I even crammed a cloaking device and a twilight drive into this dude. If need be, this baby can run so fast and so stealthy that unless they surprise it, nobody gonna take out this beacon. Could it have survived the last ambush? I query. "Probably not," she says, deflating. "A swarm of 100 nukes is something only jumping can save you from, but anything less than that you're golden." Sounds like we're on the fast track to victory. I leaned in, admiring the elegant complexity of the machinery that filled the room. Lights blinked in sequences that were almost musical, a digital symphony composed by Jade's genius. "Fast track? Try light speed," she corrected with a grin that was all sharp edges and sly confidence. Her blue goggles reflected the dance of code, making her look like some kind of cybernetic deity. "Just need to calibrate the resonance chambers and then, boom." We light the sky up. I responded. Jade chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. Exactly like that, only, with higher stakes and we all die if we fail. Before she could reply, Helen swept into the room, her presence as commanding as an army. Your levity is appreciated, she said, her smile charming but with an edge that could slice titanium. But we have allies to reassure and strategies to refine. Of course, Your Highness. I inclined my head, still unsure if Bookworm's accusations held any weight. Speaking of which, Helen continued, shifting her gaze between Jade and me, I've been discussing plans with the other nobles. They're shaken, but their loyalty is unwavering. The royal guards have all turned on us, but the nobles' private armies will back us up. Nothing like a brush with death to bolster the fighting spirit, I mused, my mind already racing with tactical possibilities. Indeed, Helen agreed, her green eyes glittering with a mix of pride and something darker, a hint of the ruthlessness that lay beneath her polished veneer. They're eager to support us, and with the beacon nearly ready, we'll soon have the power to dictate the terms of this war. Then let's not keep them, or fate, waiting any longer, I said, stepping back from the beacon to regard both women. Time to show the universe what happens when you corner an ice wolf and his packmates. Couldn't have put it better myself, Jade said, her one striking blue eye shining with a fire that promised victory or Valhalla. Later I was threading another sequence into the crystal's matrix of my Starblade's main jump crystal, the one that ran the jump boost system in my blade. I was doing some long overdue maintenance work on my mecha when Helen's voice cut through my concentration like a vibroblade. Ice Wolf, we need to talk. Now, can't it wait? I grunted, not looking up from my work. The mana crystal hummed in response to my touch, glowing with an ethereal light that promised power and, more importantly, freedom. It's urgent, she insisted, her tone commanding enough to make me pause. Reluctantly, I stepped away from my mecha. Spill it, princess, I say. Helen's eyes darted around before she spoke, ensuring no unwanted ears were within range. I've uncovered intelligence about a hidden bunker. One our enemies didn't know we knew about, and one of the noble's sons who, well, she stutters then continues, he as well was. Maybe as a member of the Chaos Legion, but he spilled the info on this bunker well, it's stocked with nuclear-armed drones, identical to the ones they used in the ambush. The air seemed to crystallize around us. Nuclear drones? The sheer destructive potential sent a shockwave through my nerves. You're saying we have access to a weapons cache that could level cities? Exactly, her gaze bore into mine. They could change the tide of this war. You said Bookworm could shrug off a nuke or two, how about 50? 50? I gasped, sure I knew that modern production equipment could, if pushed, churn out massive numbers of drones, but that meant the Chaos Legion faction on this planet had over 150 nuke-armed drones. It was nuts. I turned to Helen. How could your father not know about this? That many drones could wipe out every city on the planet. I don't know. Maybe he did and was working with the eyes, which is why the eyes were all killed. But I was never told anything about this. Helen says. I looked into her shining green eyes and made a decision. One that I would have to keep secret if what I was afraid of was true. Which is why we must be the ones to control them, Helen said sharply. Bringing me back to reality. I ran a hand through my spiky hair, considering the implications. A reckless part of me thrilled at the idea, the sheer audacity of it all. But then, there was Bookworm. He'd be coming for us, calculating and relentless as ever. If we were going to use those drones, it had to be strategic and well planned out. We had to pin Bookworm down or chase him down. Since he was a brick knight, he only had a limited number of jumps, so we had to be smart in how we used these weapons against him. Alright, I say at our next planning session, my mind whirring into overdrive. Here's what we'll do. We stick to the old plan and just expand on it. When Bookworm shows his face, we give him a welcome he won't forget. Use the nuke drones against him? Jade asked, brows raised. Exactly, he'll be expecting us to go big, so we'll go massive. We hit him hard and fast with the drones while the beacon powers up. We will have to hit him in waves to weaken him so he doesn't just jump away. It's risky, but it'll catch him off guard. As for the nobles' forces, they won't be much help in the fight. Instead we use them to keep the peace after I've dealt with Bookworm. Also we still need to hunt down the ones responsible for the attack on our ship. If we spin this as a fight between two Star Knights instead of rebels against the Empire, we can probably take control without any problem from the common people. Jade chimes in. We will be splitting the drones up into groups. Helen, I'm going to be relying on you. We need to put drones everywhere that he could jump to. That means evacuating all his jump points and leaving him nuky surprises at them. You know what that means, right? I look at Helen in her eyes. That means the palace and main army base for the royal guards, Helen says softly. Then with a harder face. If it means bringing down my father's murderer, then I will burn the whole planet. Helen says with fire in her voice. Burning the planet is a bit risky, especially if you're still on it, I quip. Risky is our middle name at this point, Jade quipped, though her expression was serious. Then it's settled, Helen said, her voice steel wrapped in velvet. We use drones against Bookworm. Let's get to it, I declared, feeling the rush of adrenaline already pumping through my veins. This was it, our chance to flip the board and play the game on our terms. And by the stars, we were going to play to win. A week later, the air in the bunker was thick with the smell of ozone and preservation chemicals. Metal clinked against metal as I checked over the newly awakened drones, my fingers running the diagnostic computer with practiced ease. This beauty better sing today, I muttered, going over the mighty weapon to make sure it was ready for action. The drones, looking like big fat black bugs each the size of a small hover truck, had a bunch of manipulator arms and a mining laser, not much good in a fight, but they had more than enough speed to close in fast, and with a nuke nestled inside their bellies they would be able to grab anyone's attention. Talk to it nicely, it might just hit the right notes, Jade quipped from behind a pile of supply crates, as she worked on her own set of drones. Charming them is your department, I shot back, grinning despite the gravity of what lay ahead. Focus, you two, Helen's voice cut through our banter, sharp as the edge of a laser blade. She stood by the strategy holotable, her gaze fixed on the flickering images of drones and their trajectories. Remember, timing is everything. We can't afford any slip-ups. Got it, princess, I replied, snapping a salute her way, though she was too wrapped up in her calculations to notice. The bunker bustled with a few lesser nobles, the ones not set to directly inherit the thrones, so they had to learn useful skills. They had been quietly picked up and smuggled to this bunker to help prep the drones for use. The drones had been fully placed into storage mode where they could have rested for 100 years if need be. The downside is that they require someone to come and reactivate these drones and perform minor tasks on them before they could be used, like refueling them and replacing their batteries and petting them and hugging them and telling them they are good little boys. Okay, not that last part, but it still took far too long for my liking to get these death machines operational. The nobles all kept a wide berth from me and Jade and only wanted to talk to Helen, despite my promises of amnesty and protection after this fight was over. I couldn't really blame them. Between me and Bookworm, a lot of high-ranked people were dead, and these would have been people they might not have liked, but still people they knew, and on a frontier world, these people thought they were protected from all harm except from the odd accident. With armies of bodyguards and enough money to live hundreds of years, a blood change rejuvenate treatment was not cheap, but any hard worker could afford them, and that went double for the rulers of any planet. Check your comms, I called out, tapping the side of my helmet where the comm link blinked a steady green. Last thing we need is communication silence at the wrong moment. It was a bit later, after doing a couple of days of maintenance on these drones, we were finally ready to stage them. Crystal clear, Ice Wolf, Jade responded, tapping her own helmet with a smirk. Good, let's get these drones in place. I gestured towards the towering machines lined up like sentinels waiting for their cue. Each drone was a masterpiece of engineering, bouglique and armed with a mining laser. They could operate in an asteroid belt for years. With their secret payloads, they had enough firepower to make any enemy think twice. We loaded up the first batch of drones into a modified cargo barge, a massive lumbering ship the size of a warehouse. Climbing into the cockpit with Jade, I link myself into the modified cargo hauler and link my flux veins with Jade's modified jump boost system. I could have jumped to space with the barge and its cargo myself, but let's just say it wouldn't have been fun. The longer a jump and the more mass jumped with are the limiting factors of any jump. But by directly connecting my flux streams to the machines, the strain is massively reduced because for some reason, magic says it's easier to carry something that is part of you than to carry something that is just in the same shield bubble. Luckily, one of the few pieces of tech we as an empire have managed to replicate and improve on is the jump assistance module. By linking a mana crystal to the power source and linking into a set of shields, one can massively reduce the strain of jumping large objects like ships. But if you thread veins of flux throughout the ship, it is even easier, and like with artificial blood, good old drug tech could make artificial flux. So this ship had its own circulatory system of flux fluid flowing through it, and my flux veins in my body were directly connected to the ship's through one of my implants. This meant in the magic logic world, me and the ship were one being. It still causes a strain, but the difference is I can jump with a converted ore barge and 20 mining drones up to space and back multiple times with only a slight headache instead of bleeding from my eyes and puking up my guts. The downside is I have to link my flux stream directly to the ship's circulatory system. Launching the first wave of drones, I announced, watching the screens as the mechanical beasts soared out into the blackness of space. I couldn't help feeling the rush that came with it, the power at my fingertips, the thrill of setting a trap for my mentor Bookworm. Second wave ready to go as soon as you return. Helen's voice crackled through the comms, all business now. Let's get this done, I say, looking over at Jade, who was wearing a set of bulkier augmented reality goggles instead of her normal sleeker pair. Drones all look good, I've got command over them. Check that your command link is working, princess. Copy that, all drones are in position, Helen confirmed, her voice a touch breathless with the gravity of what we were about to do. I also detected a slight ruthlessness in her tone. All right, team, I breathed out, my hands gripping the controls tighter. This is it, stay sharp, stay alive. Let's show Bookworm the kind of welcome party we throw. Roger that, they responded in unison, a chorus of determination that bolstered my resolve. Now, we wait. The trap was set, just waiting for the final piece of bait, myself and the beacon. We were ready to dance with the great star goat in the pale starlight, and by the stars, we'd be leading. Jade, you sure this meal can of a med bot knows what it's doing? I asked, eyeing the robotic arm hovering above my head. Its instruments gleamed with a cold precision that did nothing to ease the knot in my stomach. It was a few days later, after prepping the drones and Jade had finally finished her medibot and the replacement for my inhibitor chip. Would you relax? I've hacked into better systems using a calculator and some chewing gum. Plus I can fix any machine, and your body is just a complex one made from meat. Jade retorted, her blue eye twinkling with mischief as she calibrated the bot. Besides, if I can't trust my own tech, what can I trust? I couldn't help but snort at her bravado. In the time we'd been holed up in her family's mining facility, we had grown much closer, and I felt I could trust her, preparing for every possible outcome. I needed my final edge against Bookworm, and this was it. This damn inhibitor chip was coming out, and a non-controlling replacement would be inserted in its place. I would finally be back at full strength. Okay, Doc, I quipped, lying down on the operating table. Let's replace this bug in my system. I shuddered at the grim whine of the medical arms coming to life. Keep still, Jade warned, her voice softening. I felt the cold touch of metal against my nape, and then a pinch. I wish we had a real doctor here for this, I murmured, trying not to think about the delicate procedure. I felt the paralytic and numbing agent set in. I couldn't fall asleep due to one of the safeguards on the chip. We always just used outside doctors, Jade replied, her focus never wavering from the monitor. But they all came from drug tech, so they are not really an option. Where is Helen? My voice coming out slightly slurred from the drugs kicking in. I could sense the distance growing between Helen and us, her duties with the other parts of our little rebellion pulling her away from the grimy, nuts and bolts side of our rebellion. She is off schmoozing with nobles, Jade said. Helen spent most of her time coordinating and planning, while Jade and I were knee-deep in grease and guts. It's just you and me then, partner, Jade said, tapping away on the controls. The whir of servos filled the room as the Medibot began its precise work. It's one thing to face a squadron of drones head-on, it's another to lie vulnerable while a machine tinkers inside your skull. I was paralyzed, unable to so much as flinch, and the robot happily sliced into me, focusing on the gentle whir of machinery rather than the sensation of something burrowing through layers of meat to reach the inhibitor chip lodged at the base of my skull. Almost there, Jade murmured, her gaze locked to the display that showed my insides. Got it. A wave of relief washed over me as the pressure eased, replaced by a sense of lightness as a counter-drug was administered. I felt better than I had in weeks. The bot retracted its tools, and shortly I sat up, touching the spot on my neck where the gleaming steel machine had operated. Already repaired with high-grade synth skin and flesh sealer. Feel different? Jade asked, her eyes scanning mine for any sign of change. Like I've been running on low power and someone just cranked it up to 11, I admitted, flexing my fingers and feeling the familiar thrum of energy without the dampening weight of the chip. You didn't put any backdoors in the new chip, did you? Maybe, she says teasingly, then quickly changes when she sees the panic on my face. Hey, she says, placing her hand on my face. I wouldn't enslave anyone, not even my worst enemy. Who is that, the Chaos Legion? I ask. Jade snorted, hardly. My worst enemy was my perfect cousin Becky, Bitch hogged all the praise and always talked down to me. She was even the one that got me sent here, joke's on her. I wanted to come here. Then she freezes and realizes she said something she shouldn't have. I wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for her reaction. Fearing the worst of the girl who just placed a new chip in my head, I ask gently, why would you want to come to this planet? Turning to look at Jade, I see as she pulls off her goggles and looks down, letting her hair cover her one bad eye. A clear sign she is trying to hide something. Jade, please tell me I trust you. I say softly.